Okay, kia ora, and welcome to an Aotearoa Rugby Pod live off the back of this Bulls team, or at least the All Blacks team, to play the Bulls in this last midweek game, or last game against Provincial side before we head into that first Test match against the Springboks. Plenty to talk about here, Jip. We don't have Brin with us today. He had too good a game last night. He needs to rest up that old body. But shall we hit it first with Brin's old mate Richie Mo'unga, who was named yesterday to go over and join the squad. And let's knock that off before we head into talking about this Bulls team and about, I suppose, what progress we've seen from the Sharks, and we'll head into this Bulls thing. Your first thoughts on, the worst kept secret in the history of what would happen if someone went down?
Oh yeah, and as soon as Damien went down, I went through and I was like, okay, if you brought a player over, Rico can obviously go into the midfield. So what outside would be next in line? But it just, we've got so much cover in the outside backs and midfield. He was the only logical choice. And I suppose all the other 10s that are over there are 10, 15. So he's a genuine 10 only option. Sounds like he'll get some game time against the Lions. He's also admitted, he's a bit rusty after his break, after his first few Canterbury performances. So I just think, as Dave Rennie said, his job is to pick the best players. We know how great Richie is, particularly at this level. I'm really excited to see him get over there. And the most pleasing thing is whether he plays or not, he's going to ratchet up competition, which is only going to make us better.
It's quite clear that they selected the squad in a way that they knew that they wanted to do this. If someone in the outside backs went down, they were going to do this because they got such great cover through the centres, the wingers and the fullbacks. It was always going to be good for them to get that chance, considering Rennie's initial plan was to play him against the Stormers before, I suppose, the roadblock was put there. Not roadblock, the consistency of the selection that NZR had looked to do with their policies. But it seems like, part of this is almost planned for, they knew someone would go down at some point, and we'll see Richie Mo'unga head over there.
Yeah, I think we all said it. We knew as soon as he played, why wouldn't we want to get him over there? I think we all planned it. We all knew it was going to happen. I think they were patient, though, in the sense that they didn't rush to replace him, which probably replaced Billy, which probably alluded to the fact they wanted to see who got through that Sharks game. And I do think Damien's injury just, sealed the deal that was the logical option.
Well, we've got one question on this before we head through to the Bulls. With 5 10s now in the squad, could this be Beauden Barrett's last game in black? Look, to me, that seems very unlikely. He's such a valuable member of that squad. I get the feeling he'll be sticking around for some time.
Yeah, I think I'll state again, there's 5 10s, but then there's 4 15s in them as well. So they're sort of covering both positions. He's playing 15 this week. I think it's an opportunity for him to show, if Damien's not right, what role he can play there in this new sort of setup. And, Beauden Barrett with time and space, he's going to have a lot more time on his hands to make decisions. It's a very important game for him. But, the All Blacks is a hard team to make. So every game's important to stake your claim for that. So the answer is you probably never know. But it's that fierce competition is going to bring the best out of all of them, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're seeing good stuff from Ruben Love, and I think that Dave Rennie admitted that. We've got a question through from Phoenix. Hemapor basically says, why are we talking about Ruben Love's goal kicking? He's the most accurate since Dan Carter. I think because he's so good, we don't need to talk about it to some degree. Give me some
It was certainly impressive until Jeff and Marshy jinxed him, gave the old commentator's curse. And I've been guilty of that now and again. But I think just this whole game, man, against the Sharks, he is just a class act at the moment. He's not looking for anything other than putting everyone in the right positions. And, when an opportunity presents for himself, he'll take it. But he's not chasing that. He is really, he just looks like the conductor. There's a lot of DC about him, in the way he just has that time, but also that composure. He's certainly matured, over the last 12, 18 months beyond, I suppose, anyone's expectation is except his own. And he's going to be a hard man to knock out of that 10 jersey, I'll tell you that for free.
Yeah, he's doing a really good job of it. But we're going to see one of your boys, Josh Jacob, get a start at 10. So it's going to be interesting to see how he goes. He made a good start when he came off the bench the other day. It's a nice way of giving him some game time.
Yeah, absolutely. People sort of forget, like, he has played South Africa for the Barbars, so he sort of is quite, I suppose, he knows what's coming, and they'll obviously look to put big bodies down his channel, but he's full of courage. And then if we can see the same sort of cool, calm, play on instinct style that we saw in his 12 minutes off the bench, and sort of just take a lead off what Ruben did. Like, he doesn't need to make it about Josh Jacob. He's just got to put everyone in the right places and then make the right call in terms of the execution and the comms he hears. I think the more he does that, like in this Dave Rennie style of game plan, it looks like the 10 can just sort of bide his time, sit and wait till there's something on. Other than that, they're sort of allowing the electric speed or the brute force of the forwards to sort of dictate terms before, I suppose, overplaying their hand.
One of the good things about what we're seeing in this team playing this week is that experience outside him. How much easier is it when you got Anton Leonard-Brown, Rico Ioane, Damian McKenzie there for a 10 to step in and go, okay, this is my first real crack at starting for the All Blacks, but look at all the information I'm getting.
Yeah, well, you just got to listen to what Brin said and what Richie Mo'unga said about David Havili. For them and their 6 titles with the Crusaders, his voice, his ability to feed information in from the wings. So Anton's going to be huge. I think Rico has really matured and grown in terms of that skill set with his time over in Ireland. And then I just, having played with Bodie at fullback, he is one of the best communicators I've ever played for in terms of organising defence, but also on attack. Feeding in all the pitches so that it makes it easier for the first 5 to make those decisions when they've got perceived less time and space.
But let's step one place in through to the 9s. We obviously saw Carl Preston look really strong against the Sharks. His running game, his kicking game. Ratima's getting another crack at 9. The competition between these two blokes for who comes off that bench is quite an interesting one.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, listening to Dave, Cam's not a hunter yet either. So ideally he'll be fit and available. But yeah, I think, I thought Kyle was really good in wet conditions the other night. Couple of times he went to go one way and the other. So you got to assume that was probably miscomms. But he looked quite at home in the 9 jersey. I think he put in a big shift. So it's a big opportunity now for Cortez to do the same. He knows Josh Jacob. I quite, for him and his game, that putting those two together is both good for each individual. They've got that cohesion and they know what sort of a direct call is, or reading the body language of Cortez when he runs, and Josh coming off him and things like that will make their day a little bit easier. But I suppose the big thing that Kyle, his ability to kick off both feet, you saw that again the other day, just creates indecision in their ability to charge that down.
Yeah, their kicking game was quite strong in the wet. I mean, they really kicked
it was amazing
than they did in the Stormers.
It was amazing. The way they kicked in that first sort of 30 minutes and the way Ruben, I think Geordie Barrett, maybe even Damien as well, they were toying with the backfield of the Sharks. Like, you just sort of, they couldn't find a happy home. And then I suppose in the second half, they got that feedback and they dropped back. But that's when the All Blacks managed to score those tries, because, they'd put the chess pieces in place to be able to play that running game in the second half. And they, the amount of amount of room they made on the edge, it's because they'd all dropped back. They had 3 in the backfield trying to cover those 50-22s, which left them light up front. And then they didn't adjust to that. So the All Blacks just kept going there, and I think you saw a noticeable difference in the clean out as well. clean out like the Maldi, the forwards, you could see that had a rocket up them, and it was, they had to lay the platform. And when they get that, you're just creating time for these players to assess options, and then they have to execute. But yeah, there's the most I've kicked under Rennie, but the conditions and the way they were defending, they just made a good decision. I don't think they went in going, "Oh, we're going to kick more." It's just that was the right decision, the pitches that they were given, and they took advantage of it.
Particularly in those conditions where ball handling was going to be really, really difficult. That ability to put it on the floor or put it in the air or plug the corners, and they had that poor 18-year-old fullback who, what are you supposed to do in those conditions against an All Black side with that many kicking options? I felt sorry for the bloke.
Yeah, well, it wasn't just him. His wingers left him high and dry in that backfield. It was pretty brutal. And then they were, caught holding hands in the second half. It just showed a lot of inexperience. The best backfields will double bluff you. They'll sort of start back and then come up late, or they'll start up and then they'll drop as you're about to make the kick. It's a Wayne Smith special in terms of just changing those pitches late to try and create that hesitation. They just were very fixed. And yeah, I felt sorry for him, but it's a good lesson for him to learn about problem solving in the game, and not having to wait till the review to find out.
So if you look at what we've seen so far from Ratima and Preston, I think we head into this Bulls game and there's a lot on the line there. I think because Ratima can start really well and play really well, and if we have Cam Roigard out, then he'll probably go straight to a starting position. But we've seen good form from him for the All Blacks as a finisher before. But we've seen Preston go really strongly as well. So it's like both of them in this game have got a chance almost to nail a test spot, playing two very different roles.
Yeah, I think. I wonder how they assess it. Are they assessing the impact they have off the bench? But what we've seen so far is the nines go pretty deep. So, like they're only getting 6 or 7 minutes when the other one starts. Do you know what I mean? So you'd have to think if Cortez can play a major role in getting the attack going and getting that quick ball, and like that's one thing Rennie wants, is just that ball up and out, and he makes right decisions when to run. You do feel like it may come down to that performance.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be an interesting one to see how that plays out. Outside of those guys, when you look at this team, what are the ones where you think, okay, this guy's got something massive to play for? What other positions do you think could be earned from this weekend?
4 and 5.
Yeah.
Fabian Holland and Patrick Tuipulotu. If Paddy can back up what he did against Ireland, I'm still fixated on getting a lock on that bench. I'm not sure, you look at the loose trios, that I think the opportunity for, bench roles are clearly up for grabs with Parker, Signer and Lakai. So I think that sort of back five of the forwards is, there's a lot to play for all of them.
Yeah, it's seeing Sam Darry and Josh Lord on the weekend and the different kinds of things that they bring, knowing that Tupavai is likely to be at 6, or, you would expect that to happen. It's quite a cool combination of skilled ball runner and workhorse, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, they were so good, man. Like Darry was super impressive, but Josh Lord's skill set, man, the confidence he's growing, on attack and what impact he can have is super exciting. Both, great exponents eerily in set piece at line-out time, but also kick-off time, finding their space, getting up and making sure that they secure that position after scoring points. So, I mean, they both put their hands up as heavy starting candidates. And I think if you look at it and the amount of minutes that are going to have to be played by Paddy and Fabian, you sort of feel that, is it the bench role that they're scrapping it out for? But, again, if Paddy has another blockbusting performance, I suppose they're both different types of players, like they are quite that heavier brute force lock. But I mean, Darry's dominating so many collisions at the moment. Like, he's obviously put on some good, bulk and size, because he carried Matanonu over the try line, which was, it's not an easy feat.
No, I wasn't happy about the ref being in the way, was he?
Yeah, it was, but
He was mid-tackle complaining.
Yeah, but that was great read from Derry. He's a smart player, man. He's such a heads-up player, and I was super impressed with both of them. And you get the sense that was quite a performance by that forward pack, that most of those guys sort of solidified their role in the test.
Yeah, we haven't seen that 6-2 bench split yet, so I'm imagining they're not going to trial that in the first test match, are they?
I don't think
we're going to see a 5-3. So what happens now with the loose forward mix? Will we see Signer and Luckeye on the bench in a test match? Are those two guys playing for a spot alongside a lock? It's going to be interesting to see how they run.
I think so. I think he doesn't try to overcomplicate things, Dave Rennie. Like, he's got his way about him, and it's going to be pretty close to that Irish side, you think. I suppose the one position that's up for grabs if Will's not right, and you see Leroy's got that opportunity on the right wing, that was noticeable to me, and that this was almost an audition. If he can play that right wing role, with Morby going back to the left wing and where he's been going so well. So that's another interesting one to watch out for.
Yeah, there's a few good ones in there. What about the front row? I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with their bench hooker and props, because I imagine that De Groot and Lomax start in the test match, right?
And Fletcher Newell's going pretty well. De Groot was outstanding the other day. I still think, I don't know whether, like, De Groot will be the one, and you'd have to think, as all things being equal, Numia will be on the bench again. Cody will start. Big opportunity for Samasoni when he gets on to sort of show that, I suppose, that punch and power that Asafa Moore has shown. So I still think there's a couple of spots up for grab. I think it's the locks, hooker, and who sort of starts at tight head. I think it'll be Lomax and Newell, but which one starts and which one comes off the pine.
There's also this element, and someone's made a comment in here, that when they get to the end of year tour and you suddenly got a few less players going along, a lot less players going along to that end of year finish to the Nations Championship, there's going to be some interesting calls made. So there's actually quite a lot on the line in this Bulls game, and also in that Lions game, for people who aren't in that main test side, to earn that spot.
Yeah, I think they're pretty straight up. I think those players will know where they sit. Like, they'll know, if you're the fourth hooker or the extra prop, I think you'd have to play pretty poorly to see much change from the July series. In my opinion, I think they are a pick and stick style of coaching crew, from what we've seen so far. So I think, the additions that have been added for this tour, will probably be the ones, that if there's no injuries, that will miss out.
Yeah, there's those wild cards too. You've obviously got Scott Barrett likely to come back. What will happen with Lester Whainga-Nuku? What about Kyron Tamuifalau? There's a few interesting ones there that could make a difference. There's a lot of locks, but surely they wouldn't go on the end of year tour without Scott Barrett if he was fit.
No, I suppose it's just when they come back, that they'll need some footy. You can't just go to test match level footy. So I think if it'll be important for them to get it, well, Scott and Lester in particular, to get some sort of runs on the clock. Well, probably not Scott. Scott could probably go, let's be honest. But Lester, because it's such a competitive position. And I'll tell you what, if you win the series, I don't think anyone's getting dropped. Like, that's the reality.
Yeah. You've done the job. And
If,
then I suppose they do
if
head into some test matches before then against, Australia and stuff as
yeah,
well. So there's a few extra options.
yeah, and potential opportunities to play for a spot on the end of your tour.
Yeah. And how they use, I suppose, it depends how they see Baltimore as well. Did they see it as, winning a test series in South Africa plus Baltimore, or do they see it as a 4-test series? So is there a chance to give, if you've got a 2-1 series lead coming out of South Africa, a chance to maybe try some of these guys against a more experienced
No,
operation?
nah, they'll want 3-1. You want to win it. Drawing it would be awful. So ideally, someone's going there 2-1 up, and it's all on for a grandstand finish.
Add an extra test match on the end. We'll just float one.
Yeah,
Bring it to North Harbour Stadium. Let's have a quick look at the Bulls. You've had a look at that team. I think the most
yeah,
interesting one probably is Kuhn Bosch at 10. He's a guy, going a long way back into Super Rugby. He looked like one of those young talents that was to the manner born, but it just hasn't quite played out that way.
yeah. It's probably like um, he's we're gonna have, it's gonna be a different experience in the backfield. Like he's got a massive boot. He's at altitude. I think it's 1,300 meters above sea level. Discipline will be crucial. They'll take the threes on offer from far out. So, mate, it's an awesome Bull side. I think it's probably the hardest team that we would have faced so far, in terms of, I suppose, genuine. Like there's probably 4 or 5 genuine test match players, or they've had test match experience, or they're test match quality. Willie LaRue will be important. Like he's his combination with Bosk is important, and then this Papier, I think I'm saying that right. The 9,
Yeah.
he's got big reps, especially in and around the ruck, and he loves up tempo. So that you may see from the Bulls, because it's the first week that the All Blacks are in the high veld. They may try and run us off our feet, with Papier and his sort of mindset and around that breakdown, and I think Willie LaRue and his attacking mindset, and the quick kicking ability of Boss if they get in trouble, to get out of side. But then in the forwards as well, this Van Heerden, he's this young 2 meter Peter Lock, and he's got the big remember the name marked against him. He's come through all these age grade systems, and he's been touted as a really really future sort of Victor Matfield sort of style lock. So he's a youngster to look out for. And then Courtsier, the captain, obviously we know him from, he's had test match experience, and he's going to be no different in and around that breakdown. So those are sort of the 5 players that I've sort of highlighted as interesting ones to have a look at, and guys that could potentially put us under pressure.
Yeah, certainly that playmaking aspect is, like you say, it's a massive step up from the other teams with the amount of experience. So if the All Blacks don't get, their field position right, if they don't, they start doing what happened on the weekend against the Sharks, where there are silly penalties for breakfoot, stuff, and early throws and closing lineouts and stuff. They're going to have the ability and the experience to make the most of those silly mistakes, because I think a lot of them from the All Blacks were unforced mistakes, those penalties and free kicks from really
Yeah,
basic, obvious stuff.
yeah. I mean, it was better than the amount of penalties we gave away the week before, but I think that's what happens when you chop and change. And a few guys getting a crack, either their first game or second. There's a bit of nerves there. You're just a little bit too eager. I think where the Stormers, not the Stormers, the Bulls, probably lack punches off the pine. And I think that last 20 minutes again, I think with the players that are coming off the All Blacks bench, that's where we could see a genuine finish like we saw, I suppose, against the Stormers and the Sharks. At Shark
Yeah,
Park.
There's some real power coming off the bench with Satiti and Lord and Taukei'aho and Tavatavanawa and Narawa. How good was that little flick pass behind the back? He's so
Yeah,
silky with his skills.
he
Eh?
is. He's super silky. I thought Tavatavanawa was outstanding as well. Like he made some good, big plays around the breakdown turnovers, and you just felt he was, like Dave Rennie sort of said that he needed him more involved. You could see he was definitely trying to get involved both sides of the ball. I actually think the most impressive thing, not to go back, but to go forward, has been our defense, man. There's so much venom in the tackle,
Mm,
and like genuine. There's a genuine mindset of like, I'm not just tackling you. I'm actually going to drive you back 3 or 4 meters. That none of our defenders are losing their legs, and by losing the legs, I
mm.
mean like they're trying to slide down and just chop tackle. Like they're always pumping 3 or 4 steps afterwards, then trying to land on top. So and the assist tackler is definitely always attacking the ball to create that time in the tackle, which allows the defense for the next set to get set and ready to go. So I've been super impressed with the growth defensively.
They were just going back to Tavatavanawa. Opta produced a stat on, I suppose, effectiveness per minute on the field. And it's, when people come off the bench, they can obviously make a big impression there. But Tavatavanawa, like you said, when they're looking for more, he actually had the highest as
Yeah.
far as impact per minute on the field. But Geordie Barrett was number 2, and he was the top.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the message he's been given. So, good on him, man. He's taking that feedback on board and executing. And yeah, he just looked real hungry to be involved. And I think his biggest strength is that breakdown work defensively. But then he's still got that ability to sort of interplay on attack with precision and not overplay his hand. Like I think there's been quite a lot of maturing with a lot of X factor players of just doing the basics really well. You don't need to create something out of nothing like a chip and chase or a 50-22 or a flick pass. It's literally just the catch pass, basic skills, stay square, take the ball to the line and make sure that you create space for someone else.
Yeah, no, that's what they wanted from him. I've got to go soon. I've got to take my son to see the doctor. But before we go, Jipper, 1 minute for you to say how great Leota, Hall, and Harbour were last night.
Oh, mate, I need to make an ode to Brin Hall, mate. That was an absolute clinic. Honestly, I said to him, mate, if someone goes down, you might see some time in Africa. He was superb, man. Like he honestly, there's not a lot of turnover from this side, and he has been a key change, which has just brought, I think, a level of professionalism and edge at training during the week. And I'm not overstating. I think similar to the impact Artie had at Moana Pacifica, is like sometimes you need the old dog to come in and just show that you get rewarded for hard work. They're a side that looks fit, and they like to play an exciting brand, which clearly excites them. And defensively, they're tuning up for each other. But yeah, honestly, I reckon it was one of the best games I've seen Brenner play in NPC by a long way. It was superb.
I'm surprised he's still got a voice. He was shouting so much. Around the
I
rock, he was
know.
just so vocal, like pointing and shouting and directing. And yeah, it was good.
Yeah, it was and reefing at the same time.
That's right. And we had a comment in the comment section saying we should now call him Brin Mall after the stack.
the stack. Yeah, I don't know how often he's going to want to get into that position, but he did the job nicely. He was outstanding
It
everywhere.
was
He was
bloody
into
good.
it.
Awesome, Jip, mate. Well, enjoy the game on the weekend. And
Yep.
we'll be back together on Sunday to record for that Monday session. Thank you, everyone, for your questions.